Okay, my name is James Spearman, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This YouTube channel, my whole goal is to help you become a better aircraft owner, a pilot, and an overall aviator. And the neat part of this is this portion of what I have to offer is completely free. I put a lot of effort into this, a lot of planning, a lot of equipment, just so that I can help the community and help you become a better aviator. Obviously, on the flip side, I own an aircraft maintenance facility as well. That one I can't give away for free, but I hope you get some value from these videos. A little bit about me. I'm an Air Force pilot. I still fly for the Air Force National Guard. I fly the KC-135. I'm a Distinguished Flying Cross recipient, which is our nation's fourth highest award, and I'm an AMP IA and CFI. I've worked in the field, general aviation, for well over 10 years, including Cirrus aircraft, and I've been flying since I was about 15. In this video, what I wanted to talk about is routine inspections. Oftentimes, someone will run into a little bit of money, or it's always been on their mind, but they purchase an aircraft. And it is very often, there's not a lot of books written on aircraft ownership. Not a lot of people own airplanes. So you jump both feet in and you've got a lot of money invested and no one to really turn to. It's such a niche field that there's lots of differing opinions. And it's hard to know which way's up or down and who to trust. So here's just a few things that you should know about your airplane if you purchased one, or just in general if you were curious. First off, aviation is controlled by the FAA. So it's not like your car where you can just do whatever you want with it and all you really need to do is keep insurance on it. An airplane, it is very specific what must be done on an airplane and inspections that are required every year to make it airworthy. Otherwise, you could be fined and have your privileges revoked. So to start off with, the big one, every plane throughout the nation needs an annual inspection. The only caveat there is what's called a phase inspection. And all that means is bigger airplanes, the annual inspection could be way too long. So they broke that up into phases to be accomplished over time. Essentially, it's the annual inspection though, just broken up. So the annual inspection must be accomplished every 12 months at the last day of the month that it was accomplished the year prior. And in this inspection, the entire airplane comes apart. And the inspection checklist that comes with the airplane, which myself as an IA, if I'm accomplishing this inspection for you, must abide by, or 4313, which is a big book written by the FAA, it has a lot of steps. So imagine going out to your truck and trying to take it all the way apart. Take all the panels, anything with screws and bolts, take it all off. Take the wheels off, take the brakes off, take the seats out, take the full interior out, take the doors off, whatever. And then go down a 250 or 60 item checklist, checking each thing. You're going to find a lot of stuff. I know a lot of people in the community think this might be overkill. However, the intent is safety, to make sure that the airplane is safe to operate. Just for the most obvious thing is you can't stop and just pull over. So the airplane needs to be safe. Annual inspection, big picture, is it must be accomplished every 12 months. If it's not, the airplane is unairworthy. And then all of a sudden, now to move it anywhere, you can't even fly it somewhere to get it done at that point. You have to go through a ferry permit. And the ferry permit is you telling the FAA that you had a mechanic look at the plane and it's safe for this one-time flight to go get an annual inspection. Also, along with the annual inspection, does a lot of this come from and where is it derived from, where these inspections are listed? And so a lot of people don't realize that when an airplane is certified by a manufacturer, it comes with a type certificate data sheet. And in that, it will say everything that is required to be on the airplane and what is mandatory for the airplane to maintain airworthiness. That's on the type certificate data sheet. Also, along those lines, the aircraft maintenance manual has Chapter 4. In most aircraft manuals, Chapter 4 is the place where you find which items are mandatory for airworthiness. That would be the annual inspection. Take, for example, the Cirrus. Why is it every 10 years that the Cirrus parachute has to be replaced? And can I just skip that? Well, no, you can't, because the airplane was certified with it, and it's on the type certificate data sheet, and in the maintenance manual in Chapter 4 that will be accomplished every 10. Not should, not shall. It will be accomplished, or the airplane is unairworthy. Another inspection, this one going away from annual inspections, is every 2 years, and that is your 91-411 check and your 91-413 check. A lot of people say they paraphrase and call this your IFR certification. Those two inspections are, one is for your transponder and the other is for your pitot and static system. If you have your private pilot's license, I hope and pray that you know what those are. You would be surprised because the pitot static system, it is not a mandatory requirement to be checked every 2 years unless you're flying IFR. You can skip it. So a lot of people just skip it, and especially if it's an older Piper Cherokee or anything, and you would be surprised how many leaks are found in these airplanes, all riddled through the pitot static system. It's a wide open, and it's kind of scary, actually. And in this inspection, the pitot static, your 91-411 check, we are hooking a box up to it, and we're going to take it up at certain increments, altitudes, up to its service ceiling, or typically in GA, 18,000 feet or 20,000 feet. We're going to take it up to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 at each, and then we're going to hold it there and make sure that it maintains pressure and it doesn't leak all the way up, and that your altimeter is reading when we set 4,000, we look at the altimeter and it says 4,000, so that it's accurate. 91-413, your transponder check. That one is mandatory every 2 years. If you are operating anywhere that needs to have a transponder, which is most airspaces, especially Class C, Charlie, Bravo, and Alpha, for a different video. But your transponder, need to have it checked. And what you're doing in that, we are taking a box and it is running through multiple checks, making sure that your transponder is functioning correctly. Whole nother video, I could go into much more depth, but I'm trying to keep it more surface level. 2 years. If you're doing any sort of normal flying, you should be asking your mechanic, hey, when is my, IFR cert due? That is one that is important, and it's required. Along the similar lines is your magnetometer calibration. If you have a Cirrus or anything that has a G1000 in it, you're going to have a magnetometer. And that is, back in the olden days, it used to be all these spinny gyros that would give you, your attitude indicator, your HSI, all this would spin up and give you that information. Nowadays, it's electronic, and so that needs to be calibrated every 2 years, typically. I do a lot of those on Garmin aircraft, so I know that one's 2 years. Other airplanes may have different requirements, and that's mandatory by the manufacturer. Another one, this one is not mandatory, but your 500-hour Magneto Inspection. This one I do care quite a bit about. There's a lot of data out there, but your magnetos are your ignition system. They are sending the spark to your spark plugs and keeping the engine running. A lot of people are in aviation are transitioning more towards let's just repair this on condition. Let me tell you why you can't do that with magnetos. Yes, it may still be running. On the inside of a magneto, by the way, this is 1920s tractor technology. On the inside of a magneto is a plastic gear, and that gear gets brittle over time, and eventually the teeth will start chipping off that main drive gear inside of the magneto. And if that starts tripping, those teeth start coming off, it's worse than it actually failing. It'll start sending spark at the wrong times and cause detonation, potentially an engine failure. There is no way to really open up a magneto and just double check and see if that's fine. Anytime the magneto is coming open, for the most part, you should just go ahead and send it for the 500-hour inspection to a shop that's all they do. Trust me, I've experienced this, and I would say, for the most part, most shops, you can send out your magnetos. One of them, I don't get paid anything from it, but Aircraft Magneto, you can send magnetos out to them and they'll come back better than new. Typically anywhere from like $600 to $1,200, depending on what they find. If it's any length of time, they're going to be overhauled. So 500 hours or 5 years. That is one that I definitely abide by, even though it's not required. ELT inspection. This should be checked every 100 hours at your annual inspection. Most, like the Cirrus manual, it has this open it up and test it. And what you're doing is you're shaking it, making sure that the actual G meter in it sets off the ELT, so that in the event, if you crash, it sets off the ELT and then people can come find you. Very important. If you're ever in an accident and you survive, you want your family, you want first responders, anyone to be able to find you in the event of an accident. Please don't skip this. If your mechanic is skipping this on an annual, he can certainly lose his license over it. It's an important inspection. It is required. The compass calibration. Your plane is supposed to have a valid compass calibration card on the compass. This one is kind of fun to go out and do. We actually have another compass that we use that is 180 degrees off, and we actually aim it down the aircraft, and one person's in the aircraft taxiing it and the other one's outside, and we rotate the aircraft in 360 degrees. We tell him, hey, keep turning until you get to 360. He stops at 360, he sees what's inside the airplane, and then he writes that down. It's kind of a fun one to do, but you don't know how much variation your compass could have. And I have definitely descended through the clouds with a G1000 that powered down and failed, and I had a standby compass, or a standby attitude indicator, and a compass. Through the weather, actual emergency. Not good. If you have a Cirrus aircraft or any other higher end, like a Bonanza or any of these that have oxygen installed in the plane, most oxygen bottles have a 5-year hydrostatic certification that needs to be done. It doesn't ground the aircraft in any way, but it may be unserviceable, unairworthy condition. So technically you should not be using it, and it needs to be placarded inoperative. That is one that is mandatory if you're going to use it. The other routine, more along the simple lines, is your oil change. Oil changes, most people do them every 50 hours. The American aviation and manufacturers base the annual off of 100 hours and your oil change off of 50 hours. The reason for that is how much lead and deposits are going through your oil system and being filtered. There's all kinds of opinions on it. It's technically not mandatory. You can definitely skip it until it causes your engine to fail. And just a tidbit, a little bit of backstory. The Bonanza that has the IO550 engine on it is slightly different than the Cirrus that has an IO550 on it. The Bonanza has a 12-quart oil sump, and it has an oil filter that is twice as tall than the engine that the Cirrus has in it. So it has double the oil filtration, right? Double the amount of oil that can move deposits around, and it has double the filter to be able to filter out any sort of contaminants and deposits much safer. So theoretically, you can go longer if in a system like that. The Cirrus, to fit that engine in their super sleek cowl, were not able to use the same sump, so they had to use a sump that only carries 8 quarts. And the oil filter, they couldn't fit it in the same space, had to be much shorter, about half the capacity of filtration in it. So your Cirrus, a lot of people believe that a lot of Cirrus owners deal with cylinder changes early because they have so much less oil and less filtration to be able to move deposits and spread out the contaminants. So just a little bit of backstory between whether an airplane has 8 or 12. That's on a 550 cubic inch engine that puts out 310 horsepower. Now, if you have a 172 that has a 4-cylinder Lycoming, you'd be like, well, man, I wish it had 12 quarts. No, it's a much smaller engine. That one is fine to have 8 or 7 or 5, depending on the size of the engine. In this video, I talked about who I am, what I'm here to bring the aviation community. I hope you got a little bit of value from the tidbits and the routine inspections. And like I said, I want to give this to the community completely free. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I try to catch up with the comments and do my best to answer questions along the way, but I truly am trying to bring value to the community, and if there's anything I can help you with, please let me know, and please like and subscribe, and happy flying.